Hey guys, welcome back. So today we're going to take a look at why I bonked my first marathon and what I learned from it. My first marathon was in the New Forest, and it's a beautiful, beautiful place to do a marathon. It's really well organised. You run through some beautiful ancient old woodlands with giant redwoods, and there's wild ponies and deer and stuff like that. So it's a fantastic place to do a marathon at any stage you want to do a marathon, but especially a first marathon. However, come race day, I did bonk it pretty big. So we're going to take a look now at why I bonked on my first ever marathon. So first things first, I'd set myself a goal of between 4 and 5 hours to complete the marathon. I ended up completing it in 4 hours 50 to 55 seconds. So it was within my spectrum. However, it was at the very far end of the spectrum that I wanted. So I definitely hadn't performed as well as I knew I could. Come the end of the race, I was shuffling the last couple of miles. My legs were cramped up. I was not in 100% health at all, even to start the race, but definitely by the end. It was not how I planned it was going to go at all. So, knowing I could perform better, let's take a look at the reasons why I think I bonked my first marathon. First thing was dehydration. So I made the choice not to carry water on me. I'd taken a look at where the aid stations were and where I'd be able to get water along the way, and decided that I didn't need to take it with me. The weather on the day started off very, very cold and quite overcast, and I, in hindsight, made the wrong choice of not looking at what the weather was going to be like for the rest of the day. And it got hot, and the sky opened up nice blue. It was no clouds, and it got really, really hot. So I got dehydrated fast. The strategy of just drinking at the aid stations could have worked if I just spent a bit more time there and drank more water at the aid stations, stopped for longer. But I definitely think for me, I should be carrying some sort of water with me whilst on these longer runs. Other than taking on more water on the run as well, I had drunk water in the morning, but I feel like perhaps I should have hydrated a little bit more even before the race had begun. I don't like running on a full stomach and feeling like I'm full even with water or food, so I don't tend to have a lot in the morning, but I think I'll probably start drinking water earlier and just get my body fully hydrated for a little bit longer beforehand. The second reason I think I bonked was the sunstroke. So I definitely got sunstroke. I was completely burnt on my shoulders, my head, my neck. As I said, the day started off cloudy, but as soon as the clouds passed and the blue skies came out, it got really, really, really hot. So with not having enough water on board and the added heat and getting burnt, I got sunstroke pretty fast. I decided not to take a hat with me just because it was so cloudy, so I didn't have any cover from the sun other than when we were in the trees. So in hindsight, I would definitely be checking the weather ahead and many hours into the race next time. And even if I think there's not going to be sun, but the possibility of it, maybe just take a hat and then my pack with me next time. If you take a look at the video I did for my race, the bonking the marathon one just before this, you can see as the videos go on throughout, you can tell how burnt and delirious I'm getting. That's the sunstroke taking effect. By the end, I was quite delirious. That's why I couldn't record anything for about an hour afterwards. So that was a huge factor. The dehydration and sunstroke together was a killer combo for me. Next thing for me was the fueling, so before and during the race. As I said, I don't like to eat a lot before a race. However, in the morning I usually just have like oats and coffee. However, I think I will experiment a little bit more with eating a bit more of something substantial in the morning. So I'll try adding on like bananas and perhaps just some toast, peanut butter, things like that. Just experiment with a few things. My main concern for fueling though was during the race. So I've used gels before, And I do like these gels. I use the Cliff Shot gels. They're really tasty. However, on a long period, especially with the added dehydration, I just couldn't take anything that sweet. And I couldn't take anything that sweet for that long. So because I didn't have the water with me when I needed it on the run, I couldn't wash that sweet taste away either. So I was really forcing myself to eat these gels because I knew I needed to eat them. But because they were so sickly sweet, I just wasn't taking them on as much as I should have done throughout the race. So I really want to now experiment with some more savoury snacks whilst running, and I have a few options for that, but I'll look at those in a little while. But you know, like protein bars, again oats, things like that, Cheerios, all that kind of stuff. These are things I have used previously on long runs, but I think it's things that probably will work better for me in the long run. Another reason I think I bonked on this race was my pace. So the first 30 miles, first half marathon, I had an average pace of 8 minutes 30, which is my usual average pace, even on my longer runs. So my previous long run to this would have been about 20 miles. And I did slow down a little bit in the last couple of miles of that. However, my general pace was around 8 minutes 30. If I'd been able to keep that pace going, I would have finished the race in around 3 hours 45, something like that. However, my average pace for the second half of this race was around 13 minutes 45, which is an extra 5 minutes per mile on top of my first half. I took a toilet break at the half marathon mile, so in between 13 and 14 miles, because I really needed it. But once I stopped and I went and I was standing there taking a pee, everything zoned in. I think going from being, running constantly to just stopping and being in this dark room, all my thoughts and everything collected with me. The first signs of the dehydration were starting to get to me as well, and I think from that point that was a real trigger to me then, that things started going a bit downhill from that point. I was always worried that stopping momentum was going to be damaging to my overall performance in the marathon, which was why I never wanted to do it, but I had no choice in that moment. I did need to pee, so I had to do it. So I'm hoping that by taking care of myself a little bit more before and throughout the race, I should be able to have a better pace throughout the whole race. However, with my overall pace for this race being about 11 minutes 11 seconds per mile over the entire 26 miles, it got me thinking about different ways I can train, different things to try. So I met one guy en route. I don't remember his name. He was a lovely chap. If it was you, hello. And he was running a kilometre, walking for a minute, running a kilometre, walking for a minute, and this guy finished way ahead of me, I can tell you. And he's completed almost 50 marathons now. But I take a look at that time, which is like 11 minutes 11 seconds per mile, and I think, well, rather than running the 8:30 the first half, I can probably try and just run 9:30s 10-minute miles throughout. So I'm gonna have a bit more experiment on my long runs with running 9 minutes, running 9:30s, running 10-minute miles, and just seeing what difference it makes. I'm also going to try that, running for a portion, walking for a minute, running, resting, try all these different things and see what works for me. I do think that until I've trained a little bit more, that 8-minute 30 pace for me is not going to work throughout the whole thing. Although it has worked on longer runs in the past, it's clear to me that it wasn't going to work for the 26-mile race. So, of races of half marathon things, that's still a good pace for me, but I will be adjusting that for longer races in the future. So, taking all these points into consideration, my first marathon experience was by far the ideal marathon performance that I would have imagined. However, there's a lot to take on board. It's a great learning experience for me. In some ways, it's better that I bonked this one. I can only get better from here on in. There are some positives I can take away from this marathon though, other than all those points there, which is going to be great learning tools for me. My legs felt really fresh the next day, even after a 3-hour drive home. I was up and walking around, I didn't feel stiff, just the usual niggle on my hip, but other than that I felt great. So I know all the miles I've put in training has done my legs some real good. So I know that my training has been really good. I think just my choices and performance on race day were not that good. Another positive is knowing that I can complete the distance, you know, and I may have struggled that last 2 miles, but I know I can complete the distance, so there's also a positive to take away. If I can complete that 26.2 miles when I'm not 100% and I've made some silly choices, you know, I'm excited to see what I can do when I adjust things and make the right choices. So what's next for me? Well, I'm going to take a little bit of time now just to target my hip, find out exactly what the issue is, start strengthening it a little bit more, cut back on the miles just a little bit. I'm going to do some shorter races, some short trail races to finish out the year, and then start of next year we'll be looking towards training for that next marathon and then that ultra later in the year. So we've got a lot of work to do next year. Right now though, I'm going to get back to making myself healthy, making sure I'm doing everything right, and yeah, trying out some of these new things. Guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. It would have been great to have a video about how fantastic I did on my first marathon, but that's life. It doesn't always go the way you want it to. One day we'll be doing a video on how fantastic a marathon I did, but that's yet to come. So coming up soon, I'm going to do another read and run videos on some more books I've been reading. That'll probably be my next video, and then, as I said, target my hip, and I will see you guys soon after that.